Have you ever hit the send button on an email, then moments later regretted it? Well, I think we've all done that, and some more than others. In the age of social media and instant communication, whether it be text message, Facebook, Twitter, or as mentioned, emails, we need to be very, very careful. In his book, Before You Hit Send, Preventing Headache and Heartache, Dr. Emerson EGGERICHS says he's got 4 questions that we need to ask before we hit send. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And is it clear? And I hope by the end of this interview, maybe you'll write that down in your office somewhere or before you hit send. Emerson, nice to see you again.
Great being here. In fact, the lady said, you know that little thing in the back of your brain that tells you not to say something before you say it? Yeah, I don't have that little thing.
Okay.
And so I think all of us can identify with her, and I think there's a challenge for us to think before we speak. And it's common sense. I mean, our parents told us that when we were 4 years old. But a lot of times we need to revisit that. I certainly do, and my wife does, and everyone I know who wants to be an effective communicator needs to revisit this, because we now have the World Wide Web, and it means it's worldwide.
Yeah.
And social media means it's social. And really, you can't remove this information. It's out there. And so the challenge for us is to think wisely about this, because for a person, from a personal standpoint, I want to be effective. I want people to get the right idea. I don't want them to get the wrong idea.
Are we learning, when it comes to social media? And in emails, things like that. Because I remember when I first started using email, there was a lot of misunderstanding, because I have always worked in a satellite office with the Voice of the Martyrs, and we're trying to communicate, and depending on the mood that day, you may think, wow, they're mad or angry or that kind of thing. Are we learning, or we still need some work on this?
Well, I think we are learning. I think there's a sense in the culture that a lot of people are saying things that are getting them in big trouble. Business people now tell me that they'll check a person's Facebook in the hiring process, and based on how they communicate on Facebook, they will or will not hire that individual, because this reveals a great deal about a person's character. I think people are saying, you know what, HarperCollins asked me to write this because there's a sense that we need to revisit this and look at this. But this has been an ongoing issue always, and I think the challenge now with text and so on and so forth, people are emoticoning themselves through life. We're trying to insert the smiley face to let our reader know that we didn't mean this in a mean-spirited way, because we lack the confidence that what I just said may have been clearly understood. But you and I were chatting earlier. You're an expert communicator. I would consider myself in that camp as well. But I'm reading into things. The other day I got an email from someone, and Sarah, my wife, said, I don't think he meant what you think he meant. And I revisited and said, you're right. It was much more positive. I took it negatively. And I've said, if I get 5 A's and 1 D, I fixate on the D. An email can have 4 or 5 wonderful statements in it, but one little thing that may feel sarcastic. And my impulse is to react to that. And this is where I think people get themselves in trouble. We get hurt, we're angry, and we hit send, and we end up making a mess of that relationship.
Okay, I want to get through these 4 important questions. Is it true? You spend a lot of time talking about that, because we can think something is true, but it's clouded. So you use a lot of Bible verses, and to make sure what you're actually communicating is true. It's not just my perception.
That's correct. I mean, we know that the Salem witch trials in the United States situation, where people said, I feel you're a witch, and therefore you are a witch. And we said never again, that you've got to have facts. Now, my feelings may be real, but that doesn't mean that they're right. And one of the things that the Pharisees sent a message to Jesus, that they were offended, and the representative said, do you not know the Pharisees are offended by what you say? So is Jesus offensive because the Pharisees felt offended? And because I feel offended by you doesn't mean that you in fact are offensive or that you intended to hurt. And when we are presumptuous and jump the gun on this in emails or over the phone or in person, this is where we make things really difficult, because we're reading into it because of our own insecurities. And this checklist helps me not do that.
Is it kind? And I was thinking about this, and this was probably the one that I wrestled with the most, is because sometimes you're sending something that might be difficult. Maybe it's a rebuke even, and maybe you shouldn't even do that over email, it should be in person, but because of circumstance, whatever. So because the Bible does tell us, but speaking the truth in love, we're, grow up in all aspects into Him who is the head, even Christ. So our speech is to be kind, but how can we, if we're in a difficult situation, and is say a hard email, can we be kind in that?
Well, I think the point is I can be right but wrong at the top of my voice. And it's crucial that we understand that If I come across in an unloving, disrespectful, a hostile, contemptuous way, even though everything I'm saying is completely true, they're not going to hear me. And so part of the challenge is I've got to ask myself, do I really want to be effective here, or do I just want to lip off and just let them know that they've offended me, and who cares about the relationship? But people who care deeply about that then have to ask themselves, is that which I'm about to say going to sound kind, sound loving, sound trustful? Is this going to increase the trust between us or undermine that trust between us? And that's just a practice that many of the great communicators I know ask. And they will word themselves, even though they might say, this is hard for me to say, I hope you don't feel that I'm saying this because I don't care. I'm saying this precisely because I do care. We need to let people know our motive and reassure them.
I think the Apostle Paul, he was the master of that. He said nice, kind words. I remember in Bible school, actually, one of our professors saying some nice things about it. I go, uh-oh, the other shoe's going to drop here. Is it necessary? Is it clear? We'll talk about that when we come back.